As you already know, in the first tutorial of the series, we are going to make the shot number 1, which is this one, working with the scene a little bit to get used to it and until we get the hang of it. After that, in the upcoming tutorials, we will get to the harder parts of the short video. So the first thing that we need to do is to add an international space station. Since in the shot number 1 there is no astronaut and the space station will be the main focus of the scene. You can go onto internet and find a bunch of them in Sketchfab, CGTrader, TurboSquid or other 3D websites. However, if you want to use mine, which is a pretty decent and detailed looking model, you can find the link to download it in the description. After downloading, it comes as a blend file, so open the blend file. And here is our ISS model. This model is pretty detailed and we are going to get the best out of it. So the point is, we can start the process in the same blend file. Let's take a look at the space station. For the time being, it is a little messed up and needs to be cleaned up. And the only adjustment it needs is to set these two solar panels nicely in place. They should be set on the left and the right side of the ISS. They are almost identical, so it doesn't matter which one to put where. And to be 100% precise, we are going to use the origin points and the 3D cursor. So this is the main body of the station. You can see the name over here. Let's get over here. Press Tab to go into edit mode. Make sure the edge selection tool is selected. Then press Alt A to deselect everything. Hold down the Alt key and click on this edge to make a loop select. Then press Shift S and choose Cursor to select it, which will set the 3D cursor over here. Jump back into object mode. Select one of the solar panels, for example this one. Let me move it a little bit. I want to show you something. Its origin point is set over here. So if I press R to rotate it, you can get the idea, and this is exactly what we need. So with it selected, press Shift S and choose Selection to Cursor, which will take it to the 3D cursor. The last thing is to adjust the rotation. So if we press Alt R, we can simply clear the rotation and it will be 100% fine. Now from the toolbar menu, if you don't have it open, press T to open it. Enable the transform tool. It is so handy, it has all the tools together. Then set the transform orientation on local, so that we can move the different objects on their local axes. So move it forward a little bit to have a look like this. Then let's get to the other side. Select the main body, press Tab to go into edit mode. Again hold down the Alt key, click on this edge to make a loop select. Then Shift S, cursor to select it. Go back into object mode, select the second solar panel, Shift S, selection to cursor. Then press Alt R. And there you have it in place. Now simply move it forward a little bit until you have a reasonable look like this. Here is a good point. In the outliner you can see this ISS object that if we move it, the entire station moves. It is an empty to which the entire station has been parented. So to make our lives much easier while selecting it, head over to the empty data panel. Set the size on 1000, which is the maximum size. Then switch the display as into a sphere, so that we can have easier access to that. Much better now. Now press A to select everything, then press M to move them into a new collection and call it ISS. So this is the base design of the ship, and to make it look absolutely insane, I have provided an assembly part for you which gives our station a much better look. It also matches the atmosphere of the scene and the station itself. The link to download it will be in the description. It comes as a zip file and you need to extract it, which will look like this. It also includes textures, which is pretty handy and we are going to use that. So to add the model into our scene, simply just drag the blend file and drop it into your scene. Choose Append, then open the Objects collection. Here you can see the model. So select it and then click on Append. And there you have it. So with it selected, press M to move it into a new collection and call it Assembly Part. Next up, we should adjust it on the station until we get this look, which is so cool. So with it selected, press the forward slash key to isolate it. Then press R, X 90 to rotate it like so. First, we should remove the parts that are not needed. So press numpad 7 to go into top view, and let me press R to rotate it like so that we can have a better look at it. Then select it and press tab to go into edit mode. Enable the wireframe mode and box select these parts. Then press X to delete faces. These parts are not removed since they are not faces. So again, select all of them, press X, and this time delete vertices. And there you have it. The next step is to separate these circular parts from the main body so that they can rotate separately. Let's start with the smaller one. So press numpad 3 to go into side view and choose the face selection tool. Then box select the top half of the mentioned part. Hold down the shift key and also select the bottom half, like so. Now press Ctrl L, which will automatically select the parts that are connected to the parts that we have selected. Again, hold down the shift key and select the remaining parts on the left and on the right. Don't forget to press Ctrl L, which is a pretty handy feature. Next up, select the pools as well. So seems like we have selected everything, yeah. Now press H to hide the selected parts. Enable the solid view. Let's get over here. Hold down the Alt key, click on this edge to make a loop select. Then hold down the Shift and the Alt together, click on this edge to make a loop select over here as well. And finally, this one. Press H to hide. Press numpad 3 to go into side view. Again, enable the wireframe and simply select the remaining parts and press H to hide them. After that, press Alt H to unhide the hidden parts. As you can see, all of them are selected, so don't touch anything. Press P to separate them by selection. Now jump back into object mode, select the separated part. Now we can make a rotating movement for it, which will be really attractive in the final render. Then we should do the same thing with this bigger part over here. So select it and go into edit mode. Enable the solid view, face selection tool, select the top half and the bottom half. Then press Ctrl L. Hold down the shift key, select the remaining parts, again press Ctrl L. Now select the pools. Seems like everything is selected, press H to hide them. Go to solid view, hold down the Alt key, make a loop select over here, here, and then here. Press H to hide. Go to side view, enable wireframe, select the remaining parts, H to hide them. Then Alt H to unhide everything. Press P to separate by selection. Now we have three different parts. So these two are the separated parts. Their origin point is a little off, as you can see. So we can select this one and right click, set origin to geometry, which will set it exactly in the middle, as you can see. Then do the same thing with this one. Set origin to geometry. Let's select the main body, press F2 and rename it to assembly part. Select the smaller separated part and rename it to rotator 1. Then this one to rotator 2. Select both of them, then shift select the assembly part to make it the active object. Press Ctrl P and choose Object Keep Transform. Now the main body of the assembly parts controls the movement of the rotators. However, the rotators can still be animated separately, and we are going to take advantage of that. And that's the whole point of separating them. So let's exit the isolation mode, where we should attach the assembly part to the ISS. We can attach it over here. This part seems pretty nice and decent, since it looks a bit empty according to the rest of the station. So select the assembly part and go into edit mode. Over here, select this face, press Shift S, choose cursor to select it. Then jump back into object mode, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. Now if we rotate it, you can get the idea. Let's select the ISS main body and go into edit mode. Get over here, choose the edge selection tool, make a loop select right here. Shift S, cursor to select it. Go back into object mode, select the assembly part, Shift S, selection to cursor, which will set it right there. Then simply using the transform tool, adjust it in place. A piece of advice: make sure to set the transform orientation on local, as I have previously mentioned, but it does. It will make your lives much easier. So first of all, let's press Alt R to clear the rotation. Then on the Y-axis, we can rotate it like so. Go to top view, rotate it on the X-axis, then let's move it forward. We want to place it right here. So move it up, then move it forward. So here seems nice. Let's move it down a bit. So something like that looks absolutely nice. The space station is something really interesting and fantastic, but when we add this part, it gives the station a really cool sci-fi look. Just wait to watch it in the rendered view. And if you think the assembly part looks big, simply select it and press S to scale it down. And be sure that nothing will be dislocated. But I think the default scale looks pretty fine. Yeah, I really like that. Then to parent it to the station, go to the constraint panel and give it the child of constraint. And for the target, choose the main body of the station, so that if we move or rotate the empty, the assembly part will follow it. Next up, let's animate this big boy. And we can start with this solar panel, this one on the right side. Since later we are going to set our camera over here, which will be facing into this direction, and it will be really nice to have something animated over here. So expand the timeline and make sure you are at the first frame. The default rotation is pretty fine, so press K to make a keyframe for rotation. Then let's move forward in time, frame 200. That's what I did in the main project. This shot will be 200 frames, so we can set the end frame of the timeline on 200 as well. Then rotate the solar panel on its local x-axis like so. You can hold down the shift key to be more precise. Press K to make another keyframe for rotation. Let's play to take a look. Looks pretty fine, but there is one issue. Right now the solar panel rotation is like this. At the beginning it is slow, then in the middle it gains some speed and will be faster, and finally in the end it will be slow again and it will actually stop. Which means the keyframes are set on Bezier, and in this type of shots this will not work. So to fix that, in the timeline press A to select all its keyframes, then press T to open the keyframe interpolation menu and set them on linear. Now if we press play, the rotation has a constant speed all over the pass, and this is exactly what we want. Then a really important factor to consider. Well, speaking about space, the first thing that comes into mind is the fact that everything is actually slow, or at least with a mild speed. So to get a realistic result, try to make a slow and mild animation. Let's get to the assembly part, animating, which will make our scene really epic. So select the rotator 1, make sure to set the CTI at the first frame, press K to make a keyframe for rotation. Then go to the last frame, again the same point here, try to make it a slow and gentle animation. So we should rotate it on its local Z-axis. Select the axis, hold down the shift key and slightly animate it. So something like that. Press K to make a keyframe for rotation. Don't forget to set the keyframes on linear. Let's take a look at it. And if you ask me, I guess it is a little fast. So go to the second keyframe and let's rotate it backward a little bit. Then press K to update the keyframe. Let's take a look. Yeah, I guess now it is better. It totally matches the animation speed of the solar panel. I really like that. And the animation part is done. You may ask, what about the ISS itself? We haven't yet animated it. Well, in the final render of the shot 1, it seems that the station is moving towards the camera. But the point is, it is the camera that is moving towards the station, and the station is totally stationary. And I don't want to spoil it, but hear this from me. In all of the shots that you have seen, the station doesn't have any animation. It is the camera that make it look like it is moving, which is exactly our next step. So press Shift A to add a camera. Then press M to move it into a new collection and call it camera. Rename it to camera 1. For the first shot, I like to frame my camera like so. Somewhere around here, I want to have it facing into this direction. So if we press Ctrl Alt and numpad 0, we can frame the camera nicely in place. So open a new window here and make sure it is set on 3D viewport so that we can work on this window and take a look at it over here. So on the left side, disable overlays and press T to close the toolbar menu. You can disable the gizmo as well. Then scroll forward to have a bigger view. Select the camera 1 and go to the camera panel. The first thing that we should consider is the camera focal length. In space movies, to cover a wide range of view and also to make everything look huge, there is a tendency to use a very low value for the focal length. So let's decrease the focal length and set it on 16. And to have more focus over here, open viewport display and set the passport out on 1. Then we can move the camera closer to the space station. And rotate it as well a little bit. Don't worry, we will fix it in a moment. On the left side, press N to open the side menu. In the View tab, enable Camera to View. So that now we can control the camera using the mouse scroll, which is a pretty handy feature. So something like that looks absolutely nice. By the way, if you press S to scale up the camera, we can find it easier. The scaling doesn't affect the camera setting at all. So press S, type down 10. Then make sure you are at the first frame, press K to make a keyframe for location and rotation. Then go to the last frame. Press numpad 7 to go into top view and move the camera closer to the space station. We can also rotate it a little bit. Then we can of course adjust it more over here and try to be gentle with a simple slow animation. This looks nice. Make another keyframe. Make sure to set the keyframes on linear. Let's get to the first frame, press play to take a look. It looks just nice. By the way, we actually forgot to animate the rotator too. So let's select the rotator 2 over here, go to the constraint panel and give it the copy rotation constraint. Then for the target, choose the rotator 1. Now if we play, there you have it. It copies the rotation of the rotator 1. And if we select the rotator 1 and rotate it any way, rotator 2 will copy its rotation. So that if we make any changes to the rotator 1, we don't actually have to do it for the rotator 2. Which is a pretty nice handy feature. Now we can get to the lighting setup, which I believe is the most fun part of this project. We will learn pretty cool tricks. So for the lighting, we are going to use an HDRI and also a sun. First, let's start with the HDRI. The link to download it will be in the description. Now to add it into our scene, switch the right window into shader editor. Set it on world so that we can have access to the adjustment of the world. Shift A, search for environment texture. Add it over here, then plug it into the background node. Then click on open and navigate to where you have downloaded the HDRI. Select it and then open image. Now to see our HDRI, go to the render panel, set the render engine on cycles, feature set on experimental and device on GPU compute. Then switch the left window into rendered view. The result is something like this for the time being. So switch the right window back into 3D viewport. And let's add the sun. So Shift A, in the light, add a sun, which is added over here. Let's move it up so that we can find it easier. Press M to move it into a new collection and call it light. And by the way, here's a tip. The location of the sun doesn't have any effect on its lighting at all. It is the rotation that affects the scene. So if you move it, it doesn't change or affect anything. To adjust it, go to the light panel where we have the strength property. So let's increase it to 10. Much better now. Then there is this angle property. So what does it exactly do? The more the value, the smoother the shadows will be. So for the first sun, we are going to have a smooth and soft shadow. Let's set it on 70. Finally, enable the shadow caustics. This will prevent some probable shadow issues later. And here we have come up with a slightly minor issue. The assembly part, its textures are missing. If you remember, I have mentioned the assembly part comes with a folder which includes the textures. So to fix the missing textures issue, go to File, External Data, the last option, Find Missing Files. And from here, navigate to the textures folder. Open the folder and just click on Find Missing Files. Wait for a few seconds and there it goes. Now this assembly part looks really interesting. I mean, look how cool it looks. I really like the combination of the black and yellow parts. It is insane. So let's get back to work and start adjusting the sun rotation. So select the sun and go to the object panel. The point is, we can simply adjust the sun over here, like so. But if you want to be 100% precise, in the object panel, I can give you the exact values for the rotation axes. So set the rotation X on 106.5, Y on 20, and Z on 5.3. So this sun is actually the fill light, and to get that nice shining bright look, we should consider the reality in a space. In a space, there is nothing as cloud, fog or dust, the existence of which would intercept the sun rays, so that every single object will be in the direct exposure of the sunlight, which means everything must be bright and subsequently the shadows will be sharp as well. So to get that effect with the sun selected, press Shift D to make it duplicate. And let's move it over here a little bit. Press F2, rename it to Sun 2. Then in the object panel, we should adjust its rotation. Set the rotation X on 66.8, Y on 6, and Z on -36.6. which will give us this. Then to give it the most important adjustment, go to the light panel. The strength of it is just fine, but the angle, this is what we need to adjust. So to get a sharp shadow, we should decrease the angle. Let's set it on absolute 0. Now you can see the shadows are super sharp, and this is exactly what we should get. The lighting is much better now, however, our scene still looks pretty dark. To make it much brighter, in the Render tab, scroll all the way down where we have the color management. And this color management tab can work magic if you know how to work with it. Let's begin with the exposure and gamma. A value of 1 for the gamma works pretty fine for our scene. We should play around and adjust the exposure. For the time being, it is set on 0. So if we increase the exposure, we can make our scene brighter. So let's set it on 3. The lighting is pretty fine now, but the HDRI turned out to be super bright. To fix that, get back to the shader editor, where on the background node, we have the strength property. It is set on 1. So let's set it on 0.3. Much better. And if you like, you can decrease it even more, 0.2 for example. But let's not jump into the conclusion, because we are going to make it even better. So get back to the color management tab, where we have 2 more options, view transform and the look. The view transform is set on AGX as a default. In our case, in our scene, AGX and Filmic work the best. And they don't actually differ a lot. Pick one of these two, since the standard will give you a pretty burned out result. Then to get more contrast, we can set the look on high contrast. Now this is much better. Now this is really interesting. But if you ask me, I should say some objects in this scene are brighter than they should be, like the assembly part. I think it is actually burned out. And here is a very nice lighting trick that is absolutely insane, and that is called light linking. It means we can decide which objects should be affected by the lighting system. And by the lighting system, I mean, for example, we have this sun over here. We can decide which objects this sun can affect, and doesn't matter how many sun we have or any other lights like point light or area light. We can use this trick for all of them. So in our case, we should apply this trick for the sun too. Blender has this feature as a default, but there is a really cool add-on called the Light Helper. Working with that is much faster and easier. The link to download it will be in the description. Then to install it, go to Edit Preferences. In the Add-ons tab, open this drop-down menu and choose Install from Disk. Then navigate to where you have downloaded the add-on. Select it and then Install from Disk. Then over here, search for the light helper, which is this one. Simply check this box to activate the add-on. Now switch the right window back into 3D viewport, and if you press N in the side menu, you can see the light helper add-on. So make sure the Sun 2 is selected and then click on Init. And by doing that, now the Sun 2 doesn't have any effect on the scene, and if you turn it off, you can see it doesn't have any effect. And let's pick the objects that we want them to be lit up by the Sun 2. So the process is like this. We select this eyedropper and pick any of the objects that we want. For example, the main body. See what happens over here when I select it. You see, now the Sun 2 is only affecting the main body of the space station. And we can see the objects that are affected over here. So let's pick the other objects. The objects that we need to add is the main body, then the solar panels, all of them. And actually we should only leave the assembly parts. Yeah, now you can see how good it looks. So if I drag the assembly part collection over here so that they will be affected by the sun, you can see how they look. But if I remove them, see, now this is much better. And I really like that. So I have mentioned that inside a space there is nothing called fog or cloud, but why not adding that into our scene? Shift A, search for cube. Let's scale it up until it covers everything and switch into wireframe mode. Go into edit mode, select the top face, enable the transform tool and move it down. Then select the bottom face, move it up. And I guess the rest is just fine. Then press Ctrl A to apply the scale. Open a new window here, set it on shader editor. Switch it into object. Make a new material, rename it to fog. By the way, press F2, rename it to fog. Press M, move it into a new collection, call it volume. So in the shader editor, delete principal BSDF, search for principal volume. And we should give the density a really low value. Even if we set it on 0.1, it is still a lot. So let's set it on 0.00005. We don't want to suffocate our scene. And here you may have noticed something. The Sun 2 is not working. That's because we need to update it a little bit. So select the Sun 2 and in the light helper, also pick the fog. Now it is just fine. So let's decrease its strength. I guess it is still a lot. Remove 5 and put 3, I guess. Yeah, this is better. So the first shot is almost done, and to make it more cinematic, go to the output panel where we have the resolution. If you are happy with the HD framing, go ahead and continue with that. But if you want to go one step further, set the resolution X on 3000 and Y on 1500. This works magic. Then increase the frame rate from 24 to 30 frames per second.